Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to see all of you on Shabbat. I don't know about you, but I could really use Shabbat this week. It has been an emotionally turbulent week for the Jewish people, as you can imagine. But even with all the stuff going on in Iran and Israel this week, things continue to happen still in Texas. And there's one thing I want to tell you about, and that was the event that I was invited to where I got to bless the new mayor of San Antonio. Now, before you are impressed, let me tell you what happened. Here is the context of this event. The Interfaith Community Alliance of San Antonio is made up of a bunch of pastors and priests, imams, rabbis, obviously, and other clergy members, and they hold an event at the San Fernando Cathedral every time a new mayor gets elected, and they invite some clergy members from the group to give blessings to the new mayor as they begin their tenure in office. For some reason, I was the only rabbi that was invited. Now, if I had to guess, they probably asked all the other rabbis in town, and I was the only guy who said yes. I don't know. I have a feeling that's what happened. But anyway, I agreed to give the blessing. They told me, you have 2 minutes to speak. Okay, cool. All right. Now, you should know something about me. You might have already guessed this. Of the many flaws that I have, one of them I have come to realize is not recognizing when some things are a big deal. So, Exhibit A, I get invited to bless the mayor, but it didn't initially register in my brain that this is a pretty high honor. So I didn't mention it to anyone for like 3 weeks. I just didn't. And then the other day, I was in our office, I was talking to the office staff, and I mentioned that I'm blessing the mayor, and Sammy was like, why didn't you tell us? Someone needs to go and take a picture, and we need to put it in the Kalenu, and who's your wife going, and yada, yada, yada. And when she said, is your wife going? I froze up because I had also forgotten to tell my wife. Okay. So I went home and I told her, and she had the same script that Sammy had, and she was like, why didn't you tell me? This is a big deal, and I've got to get off of work to go with you to take a picture so we can put it in the Kalenu and yada, yada, yada. So at some point, we should just be thankful for all the women in my life that actually know what's going on, because otherwise my life in rabbinate would just be an awful mess. I hate to think about it. So we go to the San Fernando Cathedral, and we walk in the room, and we see all the other clergy members who are there who are going to do their blessing to the mayor later. And the only way I can describe this is it was like when you were a freshman in high school on the first day of school, wearing your older brother's hand-me-down shirt and shoes, and then you see the seniors walk by, and they look enormous and adult and put together. That's how this felt. I went and shook hands with these people. I got to meet my competition. It was fascinating. Everyone had nice hair. And it seemed like all the men had a crisp suit and tie, one of those little handkerchiefs in their pocket that matched the color of their tie. Everyone had a little shtick that you could tell they used whenever they meet new people. Little jokes. Ha ha ha. Where are you from? Ha ha ha. Oh, the weather there. Ha ha ha. Oh, it snows there. Ha ha ha. Oh, it's hot here. Ha ha ha. These were career clergy people. They knew what they were doing. And I was the guy who just realized the day before that this ceremony was a big deal. Very different clergy happening here. Anyway, the program started and the priest began, and he invited up a pastor from an African American church here in town. And guys, that dude gave an awesome prayer. very energetic. And the Lord will bless you and this tabernacle and this city. And wow. I just sat back. I was floored. He was awesome. And then they invited this woman who was wearing a priest's collar. I didn't know what was up with that. Maybe the rules have changed. Who knows? Anyway, this woman grabbed the podium that was facing the mayor, and she just turned it around to face the crowd. And she said, I believe in community. So during my prayer, every time I pause, you all will respond with, may we be in sacred community together. And then she led everyone in this very engaging routine. I didn't know we were allowed to do that. I didn't know it was a call and response thing. She'd say her thing, and then we all responded. We were like hypnotized. May we be in community together. It's very engaging. Then they brought up these women. I think they were like from a Native American tribe. I don't know what or who they represented, but they literally had incense burning while they spoke, and they had another woman who was right next to her, and her job was to bang a drum while they played. Dong, dong, dong. And then, after their prayer, they gave the new mayor this shawl type thing that she wore. I thought it looked like a talit, honestly. I didn't know you could give the mayor a gift during your prayer. I would have given her something. You want a yarmulke, Madam Mayor? Care for a bagel? Mazel tov. So I sat there and watched all these career clergy people go up before me with their suits and their drums and their little shtick. And I just had this very generic 2-minute prayer. While I watched them, I felt small. I felt less than. It felt very unimportant. In our Torah portion for the week, Shelach Lecha, we hear a very similar sentiment. After the Israelites left Egypt and were journeying to the Promised Land, Moshe sent out 12 spies to scout out the land of Canaan before them. And they returned after 40 days with a mixed report. Yes, the spies say, the land is flowing with milk and honey. Yes, the produce there is abundant. But the people in Canaan, they said, the people are so big they looked like giants. The spies told the Israelites, quote, we seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. It's as if they said, we're too small, too inferior, too little to do anything. Now, after they say this, things begin to unravel. The people panic. They cry out in despair. They wish to return to Egypt, and then the Jews start naming the foods they used to eat in Egypt. That's how you know this really happened. They start naming the things at Kiddush. They go through a list. That's right. This enrages God, and because of their moment of collective self-doubt and lack of faith, God condemns the people to wander in the desert for 40 years, one for each day the spies had scouted the land. Friends, let's try a thought experiment. What if our ancestors had said, instead, yes, the inhabitants are strong, but our God is stronger? What would have happened to them then? What if they had remembered the plagues of Egypt, the splitting of the sea, the giving of the Torah? What if they had believed not just in God, but in themselves as God's partners? Judaism does not ask us to deny challenges or to ignore reality, but it does call on us to confront those challenges with courage and emunah, faith. Not only faith in God, but faith in ourselves, as we are all made B'Tselem Elohim, creation in the image of God. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, once wrote, quote, "The greatest mistake is to see yourself as small." Why? Because when we see ourselves as small, we shrink from our responsibility. We retreat from our divine purpose, and we convince ourselves that we cannot change the world, and so oftentimes we don't even try. But Judaism teaches us the opposite. Each of us, no matter our fears, our flaws, or our perceived limitations, each of us carries infinite potential. Each of us is part of a people whose very survival is a testimony to spiritual resilience. So perhaps we can learn from the sin of the spies. Perhaps we can remember it was not the giants of the land of Canaan that doomed the Israelites. It was the grasshoppers of their own minds that sealed their fate. But we can still overcome our own. All right, when it was my turn to give the mayor a blessing, I faced my own grasshoppers, and I went up to the mic, and I gave her a 2-minute meaningful blessing that came from the heart. I didn't turn the podium around. There was no incense, no little drum. Just me, myself, and I. After the ceremony, I was walking out of the church, and somebody stopped me. "Rabbi," and based off of the crucifix she was wearing, I can assume she wasn't Jewish. "Rabbi," she said, "I liked your prayer the best." And when I heard this, I got a big smile. I said, "Really? You liked it?" This is really what she said. She said, quote, "Well, I liked it because it was the shortest." So, dear friends, if you learn nothing else from this week's Torah portion or from my silly story, know this: sometimes there is strength in shortness. Shabbat Shalom.